Hey folks, welcome in, or should I say, hallo mein Freund, welcome in Zurich auf dem Kanal. Apologies for butchering that there, but if you know, you know. I'm trying to appeal to my German audience for reasons beyond the explanation for this video, but at any rate, guess what? You did it. You won. You beat Bowser, and you got inZOI to be the most wishlisted game on Steam, which is just kind of wild, actually. And with that comes a lot of expectations and coverage about this game. What I'm interested to know is how you feel about it so far. I asked you in a community post how you feel, and judging by your response, it's quite positive and it looks promising. People are also going to their trusted content creators who got early access copies, and I think that's great. You need to evaluate inZOI from more than one perspective before committing, I think. Always do your best to inform yourself. So in my opinion, it's best to approach things with a healthy degree of skepticism. That said, some of the articles I've been reading from journalists at big gaming magazines have been quite scathing, some of which are well-made critiques, while others I feel are a little more, how do I say this while trying to be diplomatic here? I'll just frame it this way. The Sims 4 is very fortunate not to have been released by today's standards. The Sims 4 was considered at launch a full game, and by today's standards, it was incredibly dismal. I can only imagine if the internet was then as it is now, what this kind of critique would have done to the Sims series. It has taken the Sims 4 about 10 years and over $1,000 worth of DLCs to finally find its footing. I wonder if inZOI will be afforded that same kind of grace period in early access. I've been quiet in my opinion so far in what I've seen of the gameplay for several reasons, but the main one being is that I want to actually get my hands on it first, and then form my opinion through my experiences. I think it's important to see what's out there first, but I'm quite confident that I'm going to enjoy this game. The game's early access state is something I'll break down in future videos, but I mean, I think that's all I'm really going to have to parse through. Even then, I'll do so with context in mind. But from what I'm seeing, it's a strong early access release that stands well on its own. And it has to, because it's alone out there. For a game in its infancy, it looks promising. For the most part, I'm going to reserve judgment until I play it for myself, and even then I'm mindful of their different phases in development. But speaking of a rocky start, there has been a whole lot of hoopla about Denuvo, and no, I'm not talking about Demi Lovato. I don't know why my brain tracked there, but there you have it. If my brain has to go there, I'm taking you with me. But yeah, this is a win for consumers, players, and the community, and for deterring live service gaming. And when I mean by a win, I mean Kjun and the team have canceled their use of that DRM for their early access launch. So what is Denuvo, and who did she marry? Basically, Denuvo is what you would call a digital rights management system, hence the acronym DRM. Its purpose is to make games harder to pirate, to create cheats for, and for basically safeguarding the product from whoever they would consider malicious actors. I'm sure if you've been following inZOI closely, you will have noticed pirating sites that popped up after the first character studio went live, like months ago. You'd see folks being asked about their information on shady websites, and it got so out of hand that the inZOI team had to remind people not to trust outside sellers, so there is a genuine distribution fear there. That said, Denuvo is not the way to go. I'm sorry, I can't help it. This is the case in virtually most games that have had online services or online access that I've played, at least that had DRMs. People don't like DRMs, I don't like DRMs, and quite frankly, I think it muddies the waters of private ownership of a game versus a company trying to still claim rights after purchase, i.e. live service games. And if we are to believe Kjun and the team about their promise to be more player driven, then the use of DRM, that's not it. On top of that, and perhaps the most egregious, is that Denuvo's sole functionality would greatly hinder modders, basically making it incredibly difficult to script for and just not worth the hassle. People have also reported performance issues with that DRM, so there's just, generally speaking, there's just so many drawbacks of using this system. And on whole, the very same modders Kjun and his team touts they will fully support, they don't feel supported when you use DRM. In a recent update post on their Discord, Kjun addresses the situation. To address the most important point, we've decided to remove Denuvo from the early access build of inZOI. We initially chose to implement Denuvo as a way to protect the game from illegal distribution. At the time, we believed this would help ensure fairness for players who had properly purchased the game. However, taking a closer look at community feedback, we quickly realized that this approach did not align with what our players wanted. Whether you were on Discord, Reddit, or other fan-sided places, knowing they had DRM made players just on general sour to inZOI. Now, this is just a personal curiosity. DRMs are one of the key reasons why we have to always be online to play inZOI, and I'm curious now, with this change, if you won't always need to be online to play. Regardless, Kjun clarifies, our initial application of Denuvo on our main development build made it so that inZOI Creative Studio demo build, a branch of the main build, was also applied with the same anti-tamper. Unfortunately, we failed to properly inform our players of this application during the demo period, and we sincerely apologize for that oversight. And I think that's key here, the emphasis on transparency that is, and admitting the faults in this way shows growth. The fact that they're willing to remove it shows goodwill, but it's important to remind ourselves that this doesn't happen because they had foresight. In fact, they openly state they didn't know that this would be a problem. In their perspective, it all just serves as protection, and that's all they needed to do and all they need to know about it. But he would go on to say, we understand that removing Denuvo increases the risk of the game being cracked and illegally distributed after release. At the same time, we believe it opens up a valuable opportunity. It allows inZOI to become more freely configurable, unlocking new ways for players to shape new experiences for other players. We believe enabling this freedom from the very beginning will lead to innovative and long-lasting enjoyment for the community. So with that, it changed because the community said something. When enough people declare it as an issue and others are supportive in that criticism, it essentially creates enough waves for it to matter to the dev team, so much so they reevaluated and decided to change it. Could you imagine if we struck down good faith critiques just because it targeted our favorite games? That would stifle innovation and hold everyone back. I'm glad that didn't happen here. With inZOI nearly upon us, I'm really curious about what standout features you're most excited for and what you would like to see more during their development. I've played many early access games in my life, and this one seems to be heading in the right direction. I'll be showcasing inZOI here, so if you'd like to see more, please feel free to follow along. But until then, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I do appreciate that, and I appreciate you, and I hope to see you in the next video, whatever the next video may be. So, until then, I will see you then. Auf Wiedersehen.